All right, so our next goal is going to be to, instead of having 5-star rating and we have this number 3.2 or 4.2, we're going to have stars that represent the 3.2. So if there's 3.2, it's going to be 3 stars and then part of a 4th star. Or if it was 4 stars, we'll have 4 solid stars. So the idea then is a visual representation of the star rating rather than the numerical rating. And so that's where we're headed next. In order to put those stars in, what we're going to utilize is Font Awesome. So if you haven't used Font Awesome before and this is your first time experiencing it, then I will show you why it's kind of cool and what we're going to be doing. If I go to, I think it's here, and I go to icons, for example, and I type in the word stars, as soon as my internet connection comes up, I'm going to type in the word stars and enter, or star maybe, then you can see that this is the star that we're going to utilize in this example, and I'm going to click on it, and again, hopefully I get it, there we go, you'll see something like class equals FAS and FA-star. So in other words, if I access Font Awesome's styling and I link up to Font Awesome, then I'll be able to create these icons with the class name that are given. And this is used all the time for, there's all kinds of social media icons and that kind of a thing. So in order to utilize Font Awesome, you used to be able to just use a CDN, but you can't use that anymore. And so what you'll do is you'll go back to fontawesome.com, and then you're going to, if you haven't already done so, just create a free account. Once you've created your free account, you're going to be brought to a page that looks similar to, I think it might look like this when you first log in. And so the idea is that you're going to copy this code and we're going to put it in our index. So, but you have to have a free account in order to utilize this. Used to be you didn't have to, but anyway, that's a new thing. So I'm going to close this out now because I don't need it anymore and make sure I have it in my link. So I'm going to go to my index.html page. And I'm going to copy that link into the head tag of my HTML so that I can utilize that Font Awesome. Okay, now that I have that in, I'm going to get rid of Font Awesome from here so I don't have to see it. Now it's on my index page. And what we're going to do is now look at this, I'm going to look at the shared folder. And in the shared folder, you should see 2 files already set up for you. One of which is our star component HTML. And look at that, there's those classes that I showed you a little earlier. And so we're going to be utilizing those classes to show the star. And then what you'll also see is this component.css, which is specific to this component. And what you start to see is, if you're not familiar with this overflow, what we're doing here is, not on the index, let me pull up the star component.html. So what we're going to be doing in essence is we're going to put our stars, have our stars show up here. And the idea then is that if the stars take up 3.5 stars as opposed to 5, we're going to make this width only show 3.5 stars rather than the full width of 5 stars. So we're going to change the width of this span depending on the rating. And then overflow hidden, if you look at this div crop, is going to be if the contents exceeds beyond the width that I've given it. In other words, if I've given it 50 and the content in the div takes up 55, overflow hidden says truncate, don't show that extra overflow, just show that part which fits into the width that I've given you. And so here you can see that a style width is being set to a property, and we're going to have to set that. And then title is set to a property called rating. And so what's missing here is that we're missing our star component TS. So that's what we're going to create. I'm going to make this one go away just for real estate. So on shared, I'm going to right click on shared, and we're going to make a new file, and we're going to call this star component to keep with our naming convention. And this is going to be where we create that star component. So I'm going to accept that. I'll put these side by side just so we can remember what properties we need to create. I'm going to make this go away for the moment. And so here's how we're going to do that. Remember that we need to create an export. We need to create a class called star component. And then we need to, star component, we need to create that rating, which for the moment I'm going to give as a number equal to 4. So I'm creating this rating, and I also need to create star width. So the width of that div is going to be star width. And in the short run, we're going to give it, I'll just say number. It's going to be a number. All right, so I need to create, now I've created the class, I'm going to need to create the component. So at component, need to put my decorator, automatically import, which it did, so that looks good. It's a method that I'm going to put in an object. Don't need you, there we go. And then we're going to create a selector, and that selector is going to be PM-star. And then I need to create the template URL. Template URL. I'm sorry about that. That doesn't need, that needs to be a comma. Template, now you should be able to give me my, there we go, template URL. And that's going to be the, we saw it up here. This is my template URL. Star.component.html. Okay. And then, oops, my dog is groaning in the background. Sorry about that. And then style URLs, which is different because we can apply more than one style sheet to a component if we need to. We only can apply one template URL to a component. So style URLs is going to be an array of style sheets. And so I better emphasize that this is the current directory. And then I'm going to do the same thing here, that this is the current directory, and this was star.component.css, which ideally is showing up here, star component.css. There we go. So use this style sheet, use this template, and now I've created a component. Now remember, when you create a new component, that you have to tell the app module about the new component. So in order to render this, to be able to utilize this component, I'm going to have to register it with the app module. And so remember, declarations is just for local classes that I need to be aware of. In our case, it's going to be the star component. And imports, if you recall, are external libraries. So I'm going to put a comma, and I'm going to put star component, and it should see it. It's asking me, shall I auto import it? Yes, that looks good. So now I also have it showing up here. So that all looks good. And it looks like I spelled component wrong. So I'm going to go in and fix that. Did you see that? Okay, well, let me fix that. So star component, let me just copy and paste because that's easier than fat fingering. There we go. So now it should compile. Okay, great, but I haven't put that directive in anywhere, so I'm going to need to do that. And we're going to put that into our product component. So it's going to be a child of our product component. And so now I'm going to put that in place of wherever I had that star rating before. Now I'm going to put in that new directive, which was PM-star. And if I've done it right, then our PM stars should start to show up. Let's see what happens here. So I actually have stars. Looks like I didn't close something properly, so I'm going to go look at that real quick. Notice this closing angle bracket. So I'm going to go fix that. Not sure where I did that, but I'm guessing it's here. Yep, I have an extra closing bracket, angle bracket right there. So now let's see what happens. And so now I have some stars. They're not quite fitting, so I think what I might do is make those initially a little bit bigger. And let's see, where is that being set? I think that's being set in here. So I think my initial width I will make 100 instead of 75, and so they'll all show up on the same line. And that looks good. All right, so now I've successfully pulled in Font Awesome, and I'm using Font Awesome to demonstrate some stars. If I hold my cursor over it, looks like I'm getting 4. And that's not correct, but that's because we set the default to 4. Remember, our rating set was equal to 4. And I'm also getting 5 stars regardless of how many were in the star rating. So that's what we need to accomplish next, is how do we update from the parent to the child how many stars there are. So that's what we'll tackle next.